if you're a Tampa Bay Buccaneer fan, you are dabbing the sweat on your brow right now because that game did not start the way anyone thought it would. That was the New Orleans Saints dictating the terms through 30 minutes of that football game, but a comeback win and sort of, Emory, the story of this season for Tampa Bay doing just enough to get what they need.
Yeah, and that's the biggest issue I have about them going into postseason. They have to be the same team week in, week out, showing up. You can't just go into a game not knowing what to expect from your football team, your head coach, Todd Bowles, because we saw them come back in multiple games, which is great. You know you have the offensive firepower. You know your defense has speed, has athleticism, especially within the front seven, so you can cause some pressure up front. But, man, you got to know what you're going to get week in, week out. And we didn't see that today early. We saw it late. Now in the postseason, every game is a big game. It's a single elimination tournament. If they can play consistent, they do have a puncher's chance against any team they face.
Consistency is going to be the thing, right? I mean, this is a team, and it feels like it was 10 years ago. They beat the Lions, and they beat the Eagles, week 2 and week 4. And that feels like so long ago it's hard to remember because there was that stretch where they lost 4 straight games. And they're like, you know what? We can't beat the Falcons, but we'll finish 6-2. And Baker Mayfield will do Baker Mayfield things now that he's no longer in Cleveland, where he was. It seemed like they didn't want him to be there in the first place. So I think Emory's exactly right. They just have to play with some consistency. But the dudes are starting to show up. We saw a touchdown with Payne Durham today. Jalen McMillan, the rookie wide receiver, has played well.
Big game.
And Baker is a guy that exudes confidence. We were joking in the green room about all the things he probably got into in college that made him the player he is today. And, man, this team buys into Baker, and they trust him, and they play hard for him. And he's a guy that's going to take a hit, get back up, and then throw a seed down the field. And when Mike Evans is healthy, even though he no longer runs a 4.5 or whatever it is, he is making plays. He is Jordaning guys down the field. And that combination, to Emory's point, can go a long way if they can get on the track they were on early in the season when they beat 2 of the best teams in the league, and then down the stretch.
And to your point, when they were playing from that chasing game script, plenty of legs from Baker Mayfield, 9 for 68 on the ground, just going and getting the sticks time and again to extend drives and extend the season in the end. We must wax poetic about the talent that is Mike Evans. 11 consecutive seasons with 1,000+ receiving yards, ties Jerry Rice's record, goes for 1,003 yards this season. And get this, 5 of those 11 seasons, he's gotten the 1,000-yard mark in the last game of the year. There's been some brow wiping as well in the Evans household, but he gets the job done on this day. To sustain that sort of level of output, Mike Evans, I mean, we're talking about a future Hall of Famer. We're talking about the piece, especially in the red zone, that makes this offense go. What has he been to this franchise? I don't know if we can state it large enough.
One of the best players in franchise history, right? And Emory, your memory's better than mine. You're a little younger than me. 2014 was his draft class, is that right? So don't forget, he was in the same draft class as Odell Beckham and all those dudes in that draft class. Trey Hopkins may have been in that draft class.
Yep. And Sammy Watkins was.
Sammy Watkins, they traded up for him. He's still around. He played with Johnny Manziel, who the Browns traded up for because of what he did at Texas A&M. So it is incredibly impressive. And like I said, he's not running a 4.5 anymore. He's doing it with savvy. He's doing it with strength. He's doing it with precise route running ability.
1.5 hamstrings this season?
1.5 hamstrings. And the other thing I'll say is Cooper Rush needs to get Mike Evans' agent because Mike Evans got the bonus. Cooper Rush was watching Trey Lance as he basically set $250,000 on fire.
And if I'm not mistaken, we were looking at a 1-possession game there with the season on the line, ball likely to be on the ground, but still in the air. High percentage, yes, but getting Evans what he needed. To your point, find people who love you.
I love the history of football. So I remember tracking Tim Brown's run, and because I was like, this is impressive because his first 2 or 3 years he was injured and was a punt returner exclusively for the Raiders. But then he went on this run of 1,000 yards with the same script as Mike Evans went on, where you had different quarterbacks in Oakland/Los Angeles. Evans has had different quarterbacks in Tampa and has proven to be as consistent as they come.
Again, the great constants there, in Tampa Bay. The Buccaneers going to be a 3 or a 4 seed depending on the LA outcome. That is also the difference between playing Washington or playing the loser of the Lions and the Vikings. I think you know what you want there, but how about this? If we do get Buccaneers-Vikings, that's just a couple of old pals doing business. Some Carolina products coming out and finding success elsewhere between Darnold and Mayfield. Most consecutive playoff appearances. Now 5 in a row out of that South. It would be nice to play in the South, huh?
Right.